Both agree? So I brought the ice down. What do you say? Oh, actually, there's one, yeah. So.
Oh.
I like the drawing, I don't. I'm not sure what's happening, yeah.
Here we go.
Everybody.
Hi.
And I hope this evening finds you well. Thank you for joining me this evening. Great to see you all. I'm just going to mute everybody off. There we go. If you want to speak, by all means, do feel free to do so. Send me a message in the chat window, and then I can allow you to speak. That sounds very terrible, doesn't it? But you know what I mean. Great to see you. I hope that the weather has been as well and as kind with you as it has here today. Absolutely glorious day, and very warm as well. Right, I must remember to record so we can watch this again afterwards, so bear with me just a moment. Okay, and just going to check that everybody can hear me. Give me a wave if you can. Excellent, that's what we like to see, and a raised hand as well. Glenn, does that mean you want to speak, or does that mean that you can hear me? I'm going to take it that means you can hear me. Good man. John, first flight since January today. Glorious, eh? It's all right for some. And I'm loud and clear as well. That's great. Thank you. Good to see you, Philip. Thank you for that. Good to see you. Did you want to chip in, Philip? Do you want to say anything? If you do, let me know. Put a message in the chat box. I'm just going to start us broadcasting as well on YouTube. So there we go. That's done now. Okay. There we are. And Colin got first flight in Sunday. All right, you're just trying to make me jealous, aren't you now? That's what you're trying to do. The weather's been glorious today here. And I keep looking, thinking, wow, just great to fly. A couple of people flew over, again, just to rub noses in it. I think that was all about. I think it'll be a while before I'll be flying as a student. But you guys who are longer in the tooth in terms of flying will be able to get out there way before me, no doubt. But I'm sure we'll all be up there tomorrow. Ross, yeah, tomorrow at 9:45, okay. You're just making it worse for yourselves. Okay, great to see you all. Listen, brilliant. Thank you for joining me this evening. What we're going to do this evening is take a look at how I would forecast if I were able to be flying this weekend. The idea is to give you an introduction into seeing what I see when I'm forecasting, and how I kind of make a decision quite quickly by looking at the charts to decide whether I go this weekend. And then if I can fly this weekend, then to get down into a little more detail. For those of you who've been to weather school, this will be a bit of a refresher, because I'm going to touch on some of the topics that we discuss when we're at weather school. For those of you who've not been to weather school yet, it'll be great to see you there at some point. I'm now running them online. Because obviously we can't meet in the classroom at the moment. So I'm running those online. We did our first one over the last couple of weekends, and I think they were very well received. The feedback that I've got has been excellent. So thanks for everybody who attended. I'll tell you more about those a little bit later on, but the next one that I'm booking now is on the 6th and the 13th of June. They run from 9:30 in the morning till midday, and I do that so that you can fly in the afternoon. And they run for 2 consecutive Saturday mornings. So if you go to weatherschool.co.uk, you can book your place now and you can have a look there. I think Kate was telling me there's a few places left on it, but they're booking up. So go and have a look. So that's the plan then today, is to try and give you an insight into what I see when we're forecasting for the weekend. The idea is to go on till about 7:30, but you know what I'm like, I'll just ramble on. But ask questions at the end. If you can leave your questions right to the end, unless it's something really urgent, ask your questions at the end, or I missed something out, please do let me know. And if you do want to ask a question, just put a note in the chat window. I'm pleased you like the shirt. We've got to do something to brighten us up at the moment, haven't we? Okay, so I thought what we do first of all, if that's all right, folks, is could you, just so that we know who's watching and what you're flying, where you fly from, in the chat box, you're very kindly, those of you who've registered, have sent me some information. So I know where you are at the moment. And we've got people all over the country with all different flying experience. But it's always handy if you could just type in the chat window. And those of you who can't see it, if you click on more and then chat, you'll be able to do this. Type in the chat window what you fly, how long you've been flying for, how many hours you got in the logbook, and what your home airfield is. And it'll just give everybody a feel for who's watching. Wow, so as you can see, we've got some real experience there coming in, and on YouTube as well, people posting saying what they're flying, how long they've been flying for. Okay, so we've got a range of experience. Now, those of you who know me will know that I do say, and the students amongst you, okay, close your ears at this bit. I do say to you, just chuck away the Met book, because I'm going to show you what you really need to know. Students, you do need to know what's in the Met book, and you do need to pass the exam. But what I try and do here at Weather School is to show you the stuff that you really do need. Because obviously that thick book, you can't learn everything that's in there. And, you know, it gets confusing. In fact, I read it and get confused. So what I try to do is to show you what you really need to know. Now, my background is that I've been obsessed with meteorology since being a knee-high to a grasshopper. And I've been running Weather School now for 20 years or so. I am the perennial PPL, kept going back, doing a few hours, came away, did a few hours, business got in the way, family, I'm not going to say got in the way, but you know what I mean, you have kids and all that sort of stuff. And I'm just learning to fly now, and had set myself the target of completing that by July. I think there's very little chance of that. I've got 15 hours now in the logbook, I think, and I'm into circuits. So that's where I am at the moment. But I like to think that aviation meteorology wise, I know my stuff. It's my passion. Aviation meteorology always has been. So this is why I like to pass on some of that information to you. So first up, what would I do if we're going to be planning our flights at the weekend? Well, firstly is some knowledge of what's going on now. With weather, there are very few complete shortcuts that you can use. The idea of the knowledge of what's going on now and what you're actually seeing around you is key to being able to forecast what the weather of the coming days is going to do. So for example, today we've been really warm out there, and you know that the weather has been fair. It's been very, very warm, and that starts to build in me the thoughts that, okay, let's just think about where this could go. So I'm going to get rid of that chart that you were looking at. So where could this go? Okay, first thing, hot weather. Immediately, we're thinking thunderstorms and we're thinking showers. That's the first thing that springs to my mind whenever we get warm weather. So I'm thinking, okay, let's think about showers and the possibility of thunderstorms. Now, if you've seen the forecast for tomorrow, you know that there is the risk of some thunderstorms breaking out overnight tonight and thundery showers across central and eastern areas during tomorrow morning. They're going to be clearing away towards the east. So that's kind of the thoughts in my mind. Yes, it's not for the weekend, but I'm just thinking about the evolution of weather and the way that things are developing. Now, this is the site called weatherweb.net, which is the site that is mine, basically. And it's my website, and it's here at weatherweb.net that you can get charts for free that I use all the time for basic planning in weather. Now, these charts, those of you who've been to weather school, will know that these form the basis of what I do when we are forecasting. You'll have seen them before, and apologies if this teaches Granny to suck eggs to some extent, but let's get down to basics with what we're looking at on these charts. Okay, so what we do is we go to weatherweb.net, and this is what you'll see at the homepage. We then go to models and charts, and we come down to Met Office fronts. Click on Met Office fronts. These are free charts, by the way. Okay, so these charts are free. And what you will always see as the first chart is an analysis chart. Now, analysis means that it's a statement of conditions as they exist at the moment. And it tells us here, analysis chart valid 1200 UTC, Wednesday, the 20th of May. So the analysis chart is a statement of what's going on now, or at least at the time of the chart. So this is how things were effectively 6 hours ago. And it's based on observation. So it's not a forecast. It's based purely on observations. And what I'm looking at here is getting a feel for where the air is coming from that's over us at the moment. Now, around high pressure, we find the winds circulating in a clockwise direction. Around low pressure, they go around in an anti-clockwise direction. And the winds flow along the isobars. So if we've got a wind rotating around like so, I know that the wind is coming along isobars like so. And around low pressure, it's going around like that. So I know that the winds are flowing around the isobar like this. Now, what I can then do is trace those winds back and look at where the air is originating. So if we, for example, take the wind that's over the Midlands at the moment, now I'm based here. So if we just trace our way back here, I can immediately see that the air is coming in from central parts of France, and it was originally actually coming in from eastern parts of Europe, so across Poland. Now, because that's coming in from the continent, that means that the air is dry. And of course, at this time of year, the continent is warming up. So we get warm air. And that's exactly what we've got over us at the moment. Across much of the UK, it's been a fine day, there's been sunshine, and the warm air has been present. That's what's given us this fair day, because that air has come in from the continent. Now, out towards the west, across Ireland, across Western Scotland, follow that isobar back here. Remember that the airflow is doing this. So if you follow that isobar back here, you can see that the air is originating down here in the Atlantic. Now, a rule of thumb here for you is that anything that's going to come in from the southwest is always going to have more moisture with it. I know it sounds like stating the bleeding obvious, but that's what it contains. There's always more moisture tied in with any air that's coming in from the southwest. Now, whether we see it visibly as cloud or not is a different matter. Certain things have to happen for us to be able to see that as cloud. But anything coming in from the southwest is going to be relatively mild, and it's going to be moist. Anything that comes in from the south or the southeast tends to be dry and tends to be warm in the summer, colder in the winter. So what we're shaping up for as far as today is concerned, or as far as the next few hours is concerned, is warm, dry air across the UK, cooler air coming in from the Atlantic behind the cold front that you see to the west of Ireland. Now, cool air, warm air, remember what I said about thunderstorms and the risk of thundery showers. What I've formulated in my mind now is the idea that something will trigger those storms, and it's likely to be the advance of cold air that's stuck out there in the Atlantic Ocean. So immediately I'm forming a picture as to what the weather is doing now. Now, what I teach you how to do at weather school is to basically make that decision very quickly. So you look at it and you immediately picture what's going on. But as well as that, it's useful to know when we're planning the weather for the weekend, what's been going on over the last few days. So let me just show you charts that I've been marking up over the last few days, just to give you an idea of what I am looking at when I'm thinking about flying at the weekend. And just bear with me a second while I just share the screen here with you. So bear with me just a second. Zoom is great, but you do have to just swap it around every so often just to show you what's what. Okay, so these are actual charts that I've been using over the last couple of days. And what I do is I make annotations on them. So I make notes. So that's the sort of thing that I mark up. So hopefully you can see that. And this was a forecast chart for Friday. So what we do as forecasters is we will just make a few notes on these charts about what the main features of what is going to happen going forwards are. So that's the forecast chart for Friday. That's the forecast chart for Saturday. Those are old. So this is based on data from yesterday. So I just mark on what are the main impacts of the weather affecting the UK during that period. So during Saturday and during Sunday. Now, you might think, well, I just want to fly, I want to do a circuit, or I want to fly locally. Why do I need to know what's going on across the whole of the UK? Well, the reason for that is that by knowing what's happening over the whole of the UK, you can get a very good idea as to what the weather is likely to be doing over your airfield and the area that you want to be flying in as well. Now, as well as that, what I have is the charts for the last few days. So I print out charts for the last few days as well. So I know how the weather has evolved and how we've got to the position that we're in at the moment with the weather that we are seeing outside right now. So it builds my overall idea, a broad idea as to what the weather is doing now. So I've got my analysis really to tell me what's going to happen now. Now, by being able to look at this chart, and this chart is good from about the surface up to around 3,000 feet, by having a good understanding of this chart enables me then to be able to look at the forecast charts and be able to make decisions based on them. So again, what you can do is you can go to weatherweb.net and you can click on the charts that I showed you previously, the same page, and we'll come back to that in a moment. But you can go and have a look at the charts on that page. You start off with an analysis, and then as you click through, you'll be seeing forecast charts like this. So this is a forecast chart, and we know it's a forecast chart because it says so in the top left-hand corner. So up here, forecast chart, valid 1200 UTC, Thursday, the 21st of May. So this is the forecast chart for tomorrow, midday tomorrow. Now, again, we want to fly at the weekend. Why do we want to know what's going on tomorrow? It's the evolution of the weather that's important. Now on here, we've got a front that's marked on this chart down here. It's a cold front. We know it's a cold front because it's got those black solid triangles marked on it. First thing to know about fronts, don't get hung up on what they are, on the 3D structure of them. Yes, if you're learning at the moment and you've not done your MET exam, you do need to know about the structure of fronts. Read it in the textbooks. But actually, when it comes to fronts, all you need to know is that there are areas of cloud and rain. That's all you need to know. You don't need to get bogged down in anything else. Yes, if you're planning on flying some IR, then yeah, you need to know about the structure. You need to know what's going on through most of that front. But there are ways around that once we're looking into things in more detail. But generally, all you need to know about fronts is they are areas of cloud and rain. And what we do at Weather School, I basically draw a pattern of a front with the rain on it to show you where you can fly and where you can't fly. This front is getting weaker. We know that because it's got a plus mark there. Yes, I know it's plus and that means getting weaker. That's just the way these things are. If you see a plus mark through a front, it means it's getting weaker. Now, as well, tomorrow, we've got this feature across East Anglia and the southeast. That's a trough. Now, troughs are important at any time of year, but they're particularly important for those of you thinking of going further afield. If you're going into Europe during the summer months, troughs become really important. I'll tell you why in just a second. A trough is an area of intense showery activity and thunderstorms. So along the line of a trough, we regularly get heavy showers with embedded QNIMs with thunderstorms. You don't want to be flying in troughs. They tend to be quite narrow, so they are generally narrow features, and they kind of blow around with the wind. But a trough is an area that you don't want to be flying in because of those showers. The commercial guys will avoid troughs. If you see a map of Europe in the summer and it has a trough marked on it, perhaps looking something like, let me draw one on for you. Perhaps it might be that across France, it looks something like that. It can look very innocuous. Yeah, there are no fronts there. It looks like a very innocuous area. It's not. In the summer months, I've seen it regularly where people go flying. There's a nice slack pressure flow across Europe. The isobars are far apart. The winds are light, but there's a trough marked on. Sometimes they can be really small. So sometimes they can just look like perhaps this. That's all they look like. Those can be areas of severe storms. They can be areas of turbulence and areas of severe icing as well. And in the summer months, tops can be up at sort of 40, 45,000 feet across Europe quite easily when we see a trough like that. So something to be aware of, something to take notice of if you see them on the charts, particularly across Europe during the summer months. So let's just come back closer to home. Again, it's something I'll cover more on weather school. So you're going to have to forgive me for kind of skipping through because we're limited on time. I'd like to tell you more about troughs because there's lots to know about them. But effectively, what we need to know tonight is that a trough is an area of showers and of thunderstorms. It's a narrow area of showers and thunderstorms, and it generally moves with the wind flow. So Colin's just saying, how on earth can one pinpoint a trough in a specific area? You don't need to pinpoint it, Colin. It's marked on the chart for you. There is no way that you would really look to identify it. Leave that to a forecaster. It's already done there. The trough won't just appear and disappear. It will be on a succession of charts generally. So what we're looking at here is the possibility of some thundery showers, and you'll have heard it in the forecast today, of some isolated thundery showers developing along the line of that trough during the course of tomorrow. And we've got that front as well that's coming in from the west. Now, that front is moving eastwards. We know that because that's the direction that the triangles are pointing in. And then behind it, we've got a ridge of high pressure. And that ridge of high pressure is shown by that little kink in the isobar that you see here. That's a ridge of high pressure. Ridges of high pressure are good flying areas. So that ridge extends from the high pressure that we see down here, marked with an H. That ridge extends from that high, and I'm looking at that thinking, okay, behind that cold front, actually the weather tomorrow is going to be flyable across many of the western parts of the UK as that front edges its way eastwards. So things improve. But of course, we're interested in flying at the weekend. So let's have a look at the chart for the next day. So this is Friday. So things start to get interesting here. And immediately what I'm seeing is this is a change of pattern. I'm taking this broad view of the UK. And just notice what's happened here. We've got now a deep area of low pressure that's to the west of Scotland. We've got this cold front that's moving its way eastwards across the country. This is the forecast chart for Friday at midday, I should have said. This is valid for 12 o'clock on Friday. And this cold front has moved eastwards very quickly across the country. If we look 24 hours earlier, that cold front was actually out here in the Atlantic. There. That is the cold front that on Friday has passed through the UK. Now, what you can do, very easy cheat here, is if you want to time that front through, that's where the front was 24 hours earlier. That's where it's going to be in 12 hours time because it's equidistant between the two. So you might say that there is the forecast for midnight Thursday going into Friday. And down there somewhere is where it would be probably at 6 o'clock on Friday morning. So that's an easy way to time these fronts through. Now, what we're then seeing is if that is an area of cloud and rain, which, as I've said, is just what you've got to think of fronts as at the moment, that's just an area of cloud and rain associated with that cold front. Cold front tend to have sharp back edges to them, so they tend to clear away quite quickly. Now, notice we've got a trough here coming into Western Scotland. Don't need to know the detail of that, apart from that is an area of heavy showers that's been blown into Western Scotland and affecting Northern Ireland as well. Notice that the isobars are close together, so it's windy. Not going to try and make too many predictions about wind, but it's windy. Winds rotate around a low like so, and if we draw some arrowheads on the isobars, then we know that the wind is coming in from the Atlantic. So it's blowing in like so across the UK. So it's a west-southwesterly overall. Paddy just saying, do troughs move at the same speed as fronts? Yeah, they tend to, Paddy. They tend to move with the flow overall, and cold fronts tend to move with the winds at around 5,000 feet. So when you're looking at form 214, yeah, 214 as a am I right there? 214. I always get my 214 and 215 mixed up. But when you're looking at the upper winds chart, it's late in the day. It's been a long one. Have a look at your 5,000 foot winds. That's the speed generally that the fronts are going to move at. So look at your 5,000 foot wind, where the front is, and that's basically going to be the speed of the movement of the front, there or thereabouts, for what we need to know. Now, behind a cold front, we get what's called either a polar maritime air mass or a returning polar maritime air mass. And those of you, again, coming to weather school will know that I go on about air masses, but trust me, not in the way that you see in the textbooks. Far more interesting than that. This here is actually a returning polar maritime air mass, and the returning polar maritime air mass does bring showers, and they tend to be quite heavy. But on this occasion, it's going to be Ireland and Western Scotland that see most of those. You might say, well, how on earth do you know that? Well, the reason for that is that, can you see that little kink in the isobars there? That's a very, very weak ridge of high pressure. And you might say, well, can that make that much difference? Yes, it can. Little ridges like that can make a difference in just sitting on showers and dampening off showers. So what I would expect behind that cold front on Friday is improved visibility. I'd expect showers, and there are tips and techniques I can teach you for knowing when showers will occur behind the front and when they won't. But there will probably be showers, most of them affecting western areas. But once we're inland, so once we're sort of eastern Scotland, probably northern England, the Midlands, southern and southeast England, the showers have generally gone. Most of the showers, Ireland and Western Scotland, and also just notice too that the isobars are close together, so windy across Ireland, probably quite breezy for Wales, probably quite breezy across western parts of Scotland as well. And then as we get into the weekend, this is the all-important stuff, of course. Let's take a broad view. And what I'm going to imagine is that I want to take a flight, and I'm thinking about sort of going out from Halfpenny Green from here, and where would I like to fly to? I'm going to say the weekend's mine. Where would I like to fly to? Let's take a broad view of Saturday, because after all, this is what we're interested in, if only. First up, low pressure, north of Scotland. We've got a flow coming in like so around that area of low pressure. And what I can do is mark on little arrowheads around that low to tell me where the wind is coming from and where the wind is going to. So again, I'm going to mark them on here, and I'm going to mark a couple of them on here as well, coming through the UK. Now remember, the wind flows along the isobars. This is super critical here. The winds flow along the isobars. So the isobar here in northwest Scotland, if I follow it all the way back, is originating up here somewhere. Anything coming from the north is generally cool. And generally in a northerly flow, actually, if you get something coming from the north and the northwest, generally visibility quite good. Down here, across the Midlands, where I want to fly, if I follow that isobar all the way back into, it's actually into the Atlantic. Remember what I said about things coming in from the west or the southwest? That brings in moist air. That means that there tends to be more potential for cloud associated with air streams coming in from the southwest. Now, there's an area of high pressure in the Bay of Biscay. And what I'm looking at is, it says there, high at 1,031 millibars. That's the central pressure. And again, I'm skipping over some bits here that we deal with in detail at Aviation Weather School. That's the central pressure. This isobar here is 1,028. There's 1,024 and 1,020. So across southern England, the pressure is actually quite high. Now, I know that the wind flow, because it's coming in from the southwest, is going to be fairly moist, but the pressure is quite high. So that leads me to think that there probably won't be that much cloud associated with that air mass coming in from the west or from the southwest. So actually Saturday, despite being fairly breezy, the isobars are quite close together, and there is a way that we can estimate the wind speeds, but I can't go into it now. But it's very quick, and you're looking there at speeds probably about 15 knots at the surface. So that would probably give us somewhere around 22, 23 knots at 3,000 feet. The winds do get slightly stronger the further north you go. You can see there the isobars are close together. But actually, initially, what I'm saying there for the Midlands for this weekend actually is that conditions look pretty good for Saturday. What about Sunday? What about if it's an either or situation, Saturday or Sunday? Well, there's the forecast chart for Sunday, and immediately I've got high pressure down here, down towards the southwest. If I draw some little arrowheads on, like so, you can see there they're coming in off the Atlantic, across the UK, and they're originating down here. And I know that because I followed the isobar all the way back, and the winds are originating down here. Notice that the pressure has risen as well across the UK. 1,032 now here, whereas yesterday was at 1,024. Got a cold front across Scotland. I need to know nothing more than that is an area of cloud and rain. That's all I need to know. As I say, there are techniques you can use very quickly to tell you whether that's a weak or a strong front, but that's not what we're doing here tonight. But effectively there's cloud and there's outbreaks of rain on that front, and it's probably clearer and cooler across northern Scotland because the wind there is coming in from the northwest. So what I'm doing here is piecing together this picture in my mind, and we get a west to west southwesterly flow across the Midlands on this day, on Sunday. So again, higher pressure. I'm thinking that is decent high pressure as well. The winds are originating in the southwest down here, so there will be moisture in there, but actually, given that flow, given that pressure, probably the weather will be good for flying. I have to put a big caveat on this. Southwest winds on western coasts and hills can bring some mist and fog. So it's something that you always need to be aware of, that the southwest wind, where it hits western or southwestern coast, always brings that potential for mist and fog. Ian, you're asking about, is the ridge for that high southwest or northeast? It's actually both in. It's the bit sticking out here. There's a bit sticking in there, and there's also a bit of a ridge in there as well. So anywhere in where you see the bulge in pressure coming from the high is classed as a ridge. And John says, what about the 546 line? So these dotted lines here, John, they refer to positions of jet streams, and we use them in the winter as well for assisting in forecasting ice. We'd be here all night if I went into that, but that's what they are. We do more on that on Weather School Part 2. Talk about those lines. So I know that Saturday and Sunday actually both look like being decent days across the Midlands and across much of southern England. So now I've done that, what I can then do is try and drill down a little bit into how much cloud will there be? Will there be cloud? What will the bases be? And what will the winds be as well? Now, you get to the position of being able to look at those charts very quickly through practice. So I've just spent sort of half an hour going through those with you, or 20 minutes going through those with you, but actually, once you're used to doing that, you can look at that and make that decision in 2 or 3 minutes. And you might think, no way. Actually, yes, you can. Print them off for a week, mark up the charts with the air masses and the flow that I show you at weather school, and you will rapidly build your knowledge and your ability to be able to make those predictions. Now, let me just come back to what we would do next, because the next part of this is pretty fun. And let me just get my sharing screen open here. Bear with me. And there we go. Okay, so we then go, and you know where I'm going here when I show you this. We then go to weatheronline.co.uk. So this is www.weatheronline.co.uk. Go to weather maps, come down to expert charts. And there's a section here called Soundings GFS. So we then want to look at the SKEW-T diagram. Now, you know that I bang on about SKEW-T'S all the time because I think these are one of the most underused but most useful tools available to pilots. And effectively what the SKEW-T is a height versus temperature diagram. Height up the left-hand side here, temperature across the bottom. Height is in millibars, but also in kilometers up this side of the chart. And then across the bottom, we've got temperatures. There are 2 lines marked on. The red line is temperature. The blue line is dew point, where temperature and dew point touch is where we have cloud. So what you can do here at Weather Online is you can select a SKEW-T for a location close to you. Now, there are other sites as well that you can use where you click on the location of your choice. It can be anywhere in the world and it produces the SKEW-T for you. I prefer Weather Online because I know that the data is updated regularly and the SKEW-T'S are quite easy to use here. So what we do is we click on the location that we want. So let's say I'm going to choose Birmingham. And you get forecast SKEW-T'S up to 7 days in advance. Now, I'm just going to zoom in on that one to make it a little bit easier for us to read. There we go. And what I want to do is select the forecast SKEW-T diagram for Saturday. Now, don't worry, I go through this in more detail at Aviation Weather School Part 2. And I've got my online course, A Pilot's Guide to SKEW-T'S, which lasts for about 3 hours and teaches you all about SKEW-T'S. There's an ebook included with that as well. And it teaches you everything you need to know. But effectively, the SKEW-T will tell you a cloud base, a cloud top. It will give you winds at different levels. It will tell you freezing levels, and it will give you a forecast as well as to whether there's any fog likely or not. And it tells you whether cloud is in layers or not too, and tells you about the risk of thunderstorms. So quite a bit of information. And we do all that, or all that's done in the Pilot's Guide to SKEW-T'S course that, as I say, you can have a look at. So what we have here is the forecast for Saturday at midday. And this is for Birmingham. Now, I said I wanted to fly from Hackney Green. Birmingham is close, so I'm using an airport that's in close proximity. And what this is telling me on this SKEW-T is that we have cloud at about 3,000 feet. So I've got some cloud at about 3,000 feet. It's also telling me that the cloud is not very thick. So we've got a base here, which appears to be at about 3,000 feet, and the top here probably is at around 4,000 feet. So we're looking there at a base of 3 and a top of 4,000 feet. It's likely to be stratocumulus cloud because it's quite thin, and probably it's almost overcast. So it's predicting almost overcast skies. Now remember, when we looked at that surface pressure forecast, it was high pressure. And I said, oh, conditions are going to be fine. Well, that tells me actually there's probably more cloud than I initially thought. So this is where I build on to the picture that I've got going in my mind. It's still flyable. It's still good conditions, but we've got a 3,000 foot base. Although this is telling me that I can get above it. And if I get to 4,500 or 5,000 feet, I'm in effectively clear skies. It's also given me a wind forecast as well for various different levels. So it's telling me here that the winds at the surface are going to be southwesterly at about 15 to 20 knots. And at 3,000 feet, they're going to be west-southwesterly at about 35 knots. So a pretty breezy day. Certainly that would be quite bumpy here with the winds coming off the Welsh mountains, but it's still perfectly flyable. So how about Sunday? How did Sunday look? Well, if we're knocking on by 24 hours, this is Sunday, and Sunday is telling me that I've got cloud, a base here. So that's telling me that I do have some cloud at Sunday at midday, and I've got a base at about 950 millibars, which is telling me that that's probably at around 1,600 feet. The top is up here somewhere at about 920 millibars. So probably, what's that? At around about 2,500 feet, I'm going to say. But I haven't done that calculation strictly correctly. But it's about 2,500 feet. So I've got about 1,000 foot depth of cloud with a base of around 1,600 feet and a top about 2,000 feet. My surface wind on Sunday is forecast to be a west-southwesterly, about 240 at around 12 knots. And my 3,000 foot wind is forecast to be a 270 at 35 knots. That's also telling me the cloud is broken. So it's probably 6/8 of cloud. Even though it's lower, it's 6/8 of cloud. And above it, once I'm above about 2,500 feet, and this is above the airfield, not QNH, so above the airfield, that's telling me I've got clear skies above. So actually, it's a bit of a choice between the two. Go Saturday with more cloud, a higher cloud base. Go Sunday, slightly lower cloud base, but probably more broken cloud and probably lighter winds. Out of the two, which one am I going to choose? It's probably going to be Saturday, based on the data that's in front of me. So that's how I go about checking out what the weather's likely to be like for the weekend. Glenn, you just asked, how's Monday looking? Let me have a look for Monday for you. Whereabouts are you, Glenn? Be good to know. Let me know and we can have a look for you. Ian says, what are the numbers at the centre of the chart for, Simon? Do you mean just in there, Ian, those small numbers? Okay. Swindon. Okay, Glenn, let's have a look for you. So those numbers there, if those are the ones that you mean, Ian, those are, look, don't let this blow your mind, humidity mixing ratio lines. Okay, just leave it there. We used to use them actually for fog forecasting. So we used to have a graph that we used to use to use those lines to assist us in things like fog forecasting, but that's what they are. Okay, Glenn, Swindon. Okay, well, let's just use, we're going to use Birmingham as an example, because actually for Monday it's a similar situation. I'm just going to show you that SKEW-T for Monday, Glenn. Actually, that's not bad. There may be a little bit of low cloud early in the morning, but generally that's looking okay for Monday. It's got all the signs of high pressure, relatively clear skies. It is moist in the lower layers, but it's not showing any real evidence of cloud. So actually, it's looking quite a good day. Winds are light, 250, about 10 knots at the surface, 270, about 15 knots at 3,000 feet. Turn it to a request line. So that's what we'd read there. Andy, hello, mate. How are we? What is LCL on the right-hand side? So I'm going to go back, Andy, to midday on Sunday for this one, because I think the LCA was better demonstrated there. So LCL is effectively condensation level. So it's the level that condensation takes place. Very, very roughly, it's where cloud starts to form, but we don't always see that condensation level as exactly cloud base. So if you work across from there, Andy, you'll see it's about here. Now, actually, the reason I showed you this for Sunday is it's a good example, really, of LCL working quite well. So it's where cloud base is. Generally, LCL gives you an indication as to what that is. How do I know it's going to be 6/8 of cloud? Okay, the reason I know that, Chris, is the distance apart between the red line, the temperature, and the dew point. So once you know what those are, you can get a prediction of what of the amount of cloud that there's likely to be, and I cover that on the online on the pilot's guide to SKEW-T'S. So that's online at Weather School. What are the hodograph numbers? Hodograph numbers tell us where warm air is going and where cold air is going. It's what we call, it assists us in something called advection. So forecasters use hodographs to assist with that. So that's what hodographs are for. So there we are. That's how I would go about planning the weather for the weekend. What it comes down to is essentially using the surface charts that we see at the Met Office surface charts that you get from weatherweb.net, and having a glance through those, looking at them, printing them out, probably from a Wednesday onwards, to see how the weekend is going to be developing. And you can see the evolution of the charts and the way that the fronts are moving, look, through the chart. Get yourself a good grip of air masses and where the air is coming from and where the air is going to. Weather usually falls into a strict set of rules where you get average cloud bases and average cloud tops in certain air masses. And I'll show you all that at Weather School. But really get yourself a feel for these charts and print them out. And then what I do is look at my SKEW-T'S and make a prediction using those of what my cloud bases and tops are going to be. Now, I know I've thrown a lot of information at you and I don't expect you to be experts. And the idea of tonight is not to teach you to be forecasters. It's to show you what I look at when I'm forecasting for the weekend. Notice I haven't looked at apps. And the reason I haven't looked at apps is because actually, yeah, well, I just don't particularly rate them, and most forecasters don't. They're useful to know if you're going to hang out your washing, but I must admit, beyond that, certainly stuff that's saying it can predict an hourly prediction, let's say on a Wednesday, for what a Friday or a Saturday is going to be like. We have enough difficulty predicting what an hourly prediction is going to be like in the next 2 hours, let alone that far in advance. So just go very, very easy on apps. That's not to say don't use them, but I wouldn't be using them as a basis for flying, and definitely don't use them as a decision as to whether to go flying on a particular day. These charts open up the whole world to you, and this is basically what you need and what I think pilots should get used to looking at and using on a regular basis. Now, hopefully this has been useful for you. I just want to again say thank you for all of you who have contributed to the Big Issue Foundation. You'll know that we've been fundraising over the last few weeks, and we actually made the front cover of the Big Issue because of aviation raising so much money through these webinars. And there's a write-up in the Big Issue this week about us. So if you've enjoyed this, it's completely free of charge, this webinar. Please do make a donation. If you've donated in the past, please donate again. This is for the sellers who can't sell the magazines on the streets because of COVID-19, obviously because of the contact issues. So the Big Issue are helping out those sellers. So if you can donate, please, please do so. That'd be so, so welcome, I know, by the Big Issue. And also, if you'll let me do a bit of a plug for Weather School. As I say, I'm booking now for the course on the 6th and the 13th of June. That's Aviation Weather Part 1. And it's a live online course. It's presented by me. It's exactly the same course that you'll study in the classroom. And if you just click on it on weatherschool.co.uk, you can see all the information you need to know about that course, and you can book online now by just clicking on the link on the right-hand side there, and you can book your place on that course. The online guide to SKEW-T'S, again, go to weatherschool.co.uk, click on a pilot's guide to SKEW-T'S. This is a recorded course, again, fully presented by me, takes about 3 hours. You get lifetime access to it, and you get a free ebook as well. And I teach you on there how to forecast the weather for your flight using those SKEW-T diagrams, and you can use those for any location in the world. And as Colin's put on there, he's done the course and said it was a really good course. So go and have a look at that. Ideal to study while we're in lockdown. And if you've not been to Aviation Weather School yet, come along. It really is a great day. And now it's online, it's even easier. You don't have to leave your own home. Okay, has anybody got any questions? Anything you want to know? Brilliant, Andrew. Pleased that that's inspired you to get some extra training. Fantastic. That's really good news. Brilliant, John. Glad it's whetted your appetite. Ian, yes, I'm doing the part 2 courses online. Kate is sorting it out now for dates. So definitely you'll be told very soon the dates for part 2. I was just reading there, Jeffrey got a book to go with these courses. As far as books go, Jeffrey, I've got my Pocket Weather Forecaster book. That is a book on clouds and the weather that they bring. So that's for pilots, but not anybody who's interested in the weather. So it's a basic cloud identifier and the weather that those clouds bring. And it's the clouds that I think you need to know. None of the really complicated stuff. That's the stuff you really need to know. I've got that. And then the DVDs, the WeatherWise DVD. That's a 2-hour DVD of little 5-minute sections, which go through things like air masses. It goes to stuff like fog, talks about fronts, about why high and low pressure form. So that is there as well for you. And you can order those through the Weather School shop just down here. You'll see it says books and DVDs. So those are all available now as well. Got some more questions coming in, so bear with me just a second. Brilliant, Mike. I'm pleased you learn something new every time. Do you know what, Mike? So do I. I've been doing it for 35 years now, and every single day I learn more about the weather. And just when you think you've cracked it, Mother Nature turns around and bites me in the bum. Let's have a look. Would I say that SKEW-T and other charts are better than the 214, 215? Dean, I'd use them as well as. So 214, 215 are really good. I'm actually putting together, and well, actually, you can. There's a video on YouTube that I did a few weeks ago, which is talking about getting more from 214 and 215. And I've had emails off pilots asking me to put together an online course for that. So I'm in the process of doing that at the moment. 214, 215 are really underused. Okay, they are excellent forecast resources. The problem with them is that they're quite complicated because they're abbreviations, and these days we don't really like abbreviations that much. But if you can crack 214, 215, and the way to do it is print off the chart in the morning. And so, for example, tomorrow morning, print off the chart. You're not going to go flying. I know that, most of you tomorrow morning. If you are, and I know somebody was, weren't they, at 9:45 in the morning? But print it off, okay? Print off the surface analysis chart from weatherweb.net, look at what's going out the window outside, and just have a read down that 214, 215, just the area that relates to you. Do that for a few days, you'll quickly get used to it. But 214, 215 are really important for flying on that day. What the SKEW-T does is add to 214 and 215. And of course, 214, 215 are only valid for that day. If we want to know what's going to happen tomorrow or in the days ahead, we need to use those SKEW-Ts because those are the forecasts going forward. So you see, for today, 214, 215 and the SKEW-T are useful, but the SKEW-T going forward, because we don't have 214 and 215. If you can crack SKEW-Ts, they just open up a whole new world for you. Yeah, Marcus, good to see you. Good revision from earlier Rusty Weather School attendees. Nice to see you. Andy, highly recommend part 2, anyone who hasn't done it. Thank you, Andy. Very good. And of course, I know you recommend part 1 as well. Peter, great to hear from you. Look, Peter, it says there, it makes me realise how little I know. I'm a doctor in this stuff, all right? I've got a doctorate in meteorology. I realise how little I know as well. So for all of us, it's a learning curve, trust me. Yeah, it was great to see on the course, Peter. That was a few years ago now, wasn't it? David, brilliant that you've enjoyed that. You dropped into a session the other week. Yeah, wow, brilliant. Thanks for that, Peter. Please like the YouTube channel. Is that the streaming that I've been testing out as well, Peter? Have you seen that? The little weather channel streaming I was doing? Yeah, absolutely, David. 214 plus 215 plus the SKEW-T and previous weather equals an overview. You've got it in one, but don't make it too onerous for yourself. You know, you want to fly, you don't want to forecast. So just get used to doing it and it will become natural. The routine is there. Go for it. Dean, have a look at the video. Find that I've been using 214, 215 in the Windy app before going flying. Yeah, I have to say, use Windy, but don't go flying on it. Okay, don't make that the basis for your flying decision. The forecasts that come out of it, or any app, do not make it the basis for your flying decision. 214, 215 must be that, and these two things here have to be that decision. And the reason for that is that everything that's coming out of an app that's saying it's predicting for your postcode isn't predicting for your postcode. It's predicting for a model point close to your postcode. It's only model output data, so it hasn't had a human looking at it. And models are only as good as the data that go in. And actually, I've been talking to a colleague at the university today. I lecture the master's course in weather forecasting at Birmingham University as a visiting lecturer, just for one semester each year. It's just 1 day a week at the end of the year. Been talking to one of my colleagues there today about the similarities between the modelling that's going on at the moment with COVID and climate modelling and forecast modelling, and how the two are so similar, because it's obviously all model based. And what we've been saying is that it's quite fascinating to see how the data that's gone into the COVID-19 modelling can change quite dramatically, or the output can change dramatically depending on the data that's gone in. And that's exactly what you see in weather forecasting models as well. It only needs a couple of small changes of the data and the output changes dramatically. A model is there as a tool, not to replace the human forecaster. And using apps, you are using that raw model output, nothing else. So what I don't want to, I'm not completely rubbishing apps. What I'm saying is they shouldn't be used as the basis to go flying. And certainly anything beyond, well, even 12 hours, I think even 6 hours, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be using it to tell me the times of clearance of rain and things like that. I'd use a combination of what I've shown you today and looking obviously at things like TAFs. Sorry, did I go off on one then? I think I probably did. Yeah, I've got a sailing course as well, Andrew, absolutely. There is an overlap. I'd do the, Andrew, if you're flying, I think I'd do the pilot one. And the reason for the AVIATION for saying that is that we go more into depth about what the lower levels of the atmosphere are doing, so 3,000 to 5,000 feet. So I'd go for the flying course. Much of it overlaps into the sailing course, so I'd do that one. Peter, yeah, something I'm looking at. Watch this space, Peter, about doing an online refresher. Watch this space. And let's have a look. Sign up for your Fly Forecast weekly email. Absolutely. If people haven't done that yet, let me just post the link to that for you. Aviation, what you do is you send a blank email to aviationweather-subscribe at weatherweb.net. Just make sure I've typed that in correctly. There you go. And then you get an email on Thursday or Friday with the weekend forecast on there too. So that goes there. Colin, has there ever been a successful litigation brought against a forecaster for getting it wrong? You are devious. No, the case against forecasters will be based on, if anything is successfully done, probably is going to be based on negligence. You know, the guy went to sleep or he was drunk. That's what it will be based on, I think, rather than any misinterpretation of the weather. But no, not yet, thank goodness. But we still have to pay professional indemnity insurance every year. Brilliant. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for making that donation. That's really good of you. Can I pull your tooth out as well, John? No, sorry, I'm no good at that. I might be a doctor, but I can't do that. Let's have a look. Yeah, it didn't happen with the Fastnet race. Absolutely. But there's a lot of discussion based around that and the low pressure, and would you have known that the low is going to develop at that time? Yeah. And Dean, thanks very much. Yeah, you look at the SKEW-T course you have, didn't realize how much value it could add to my forecasting. Absolutely. And what you got to think of with all these courses, I try to price Aviation Weather School at the price that's sort of an hour's flying plus lunch. So, you know, it's 249 quid for the Aviation Weather School online course. You're getting 6 hours there of me teaching you about weather. You will definitely fly more because of it. I guarantee you that. If it doesn't happen, I'll give you your money back for the course. Simple as that, because you will fly more when you've taken that course. And as I say, I'll price it at that level because I think hour or so's flying plus lunch, plus your time getting there and back from the airport, your fuel, it's going to be 250 quid. There you go. That's the price of the course. And you spend a few hours doing that, you will fly more. As I say, if you don't, let me know. I'll give you money back for it. And the SKEW-T'S course, 79 quid is basically, it's done at that price because I just want as many people to get into SKEW-T'S as is possible, because pilots haven't been shown that information. And I think that can get all of us flying more. Okay, any more questions from anybody at all? Jordan, yeah, sorry, did I miss you there? You said, could you explain actually what an isobar is? You asked the question on YouTube. I know it works with the charts, but don't know technical what it is. Okay, so an isobar, just very quickly, an isobar, so for example, this line going through here, it joins a line of equal pressure. So the charts that we see in front of us here are sea level charts. Pressure is reduced to sea level because as you go upwards, pressure reduces. So as stations are making observations, they're making their local observation of pressure. We apply correction for temperature and then bring that pressure down to sea level. And that's what you see here. So an isobar joins points of exactly the same pressure, or as pilots know it, points of Q and H effectively. So an isobar joins a line of equal pressure, and that's all it is. The closer together the isobars, the stronger the winds. Winds flow along the isobars. Hope that explains it, Jordan. You did ask that question a while ago, so my apologies. David says, agree, love the SKEW-T. Yeah, put the business case to my wife. She'll approve it as it's good value. Absolutely. Listen, tell her, David, it means that you're going to be able to spot your flying days better. It means that you won't make wasted trips to the airport, which means that you can get on with all those important jobs around the house that she's got lined up for you. Brilliant. Can I demystify an inversion? Was the demystify meant as a pun there, James? An inversion is where temperatures, instead of falling with height, rise with height in a small area. So, for example, in the winter months, you know, we have fog sat at the surface and it's clear blue skies above. That fog is stuck below an inversion. So the best way to imagine it is, imagine a block of cold, dense air, because cold air is more dense than warm air, sat at the surface. So that's cold air sat at the surface. And then above it is warmer, less dense air. Okay. And that that warmer, lesser dense air means that instead of temperatures falling with height, because we go from warm to cold, we now go from cold to warm. So temperatures rise with height. That's all an inversion is, James. Hopefully that helps. Jeffrey says, does the 249 course include the SKEW-T? Do I need both? No, it doesn't, Jeffrey. I would always recommend do Aviation Weather School Online Part 1 first. So do that first. That opens things up to you. So one of the things that I do on the online course on Aviation Weather Part 1, I've got to remember it's online, Aviation Weather Part 1, is when we talk about air masses, I will give you bases and tops that you're going to experience in those air masses. And I give you that framework to work with of weather. What SKEW-T'S then do is allow you to make amendments from that information that I've given you. I've got some people who have done the SKEW-T course before they've done Aviation Weather School. I've got some people who've done the SKEW-T course just after they've done Aviation Weather School. And then I've got other people who will do Aviation Weather School Part 1 and Aviation Weather School Part 2, which is where we go into depths with SKEW-T'S, but with me rather than a recorded online course. And they've done a Pilot's Guide to SKEW-T'S online as well. All depends on how much information you want, how much you want there as a refresher. But I'd always recommend, if possible, try and do Aviation Weather School Online Part 1 first. If you can't afford to do that, do the Pilot's Guide to SKEW-T'S online at the 79 quid. And then when you can afford it, come along to Aviation Weather School Part 1. Hope that answers it. Neil, I can forecast the weather now. Lockdown restrictions lifting G8. It'll rain almost every day. Of course it will. That's the law of sod, Neil, isn't it? I hope you're well, by the way, Neil. Ian says, if an isobar joins equal pressure points like a gradient on a map, they are continuous, a circle. Therefore, how do you know where the wind is coming from? Okay, the easy way to do this, Ian, is winds rotate around low pressure in an anti-clockwise direction like so. Okay, so all of those isobars will be rotating around like this. Take that 1012 isobar here. Okay, that will also be flowing like so. It'll come down here somewhere, and then the isobar must come back around here. So it then comes around here, look, and all the way back up here. So effectively, yes, they are circles. They will eventually join together. And you know the way they flow because you just look at how the wind flows around high and low pressure. So around this height, it's going to be doing this, and the winds will be flowing like so with that isobar. And you can see there, look, Ian, how the wind in the Atlantic is coming in like so, the wind coming off the continent's coming like so, and the two are joining together. You can occasionally get isobars next door to each other, which are showing a different wind flow, completely almost, it looks like in opposite directions. That can happen, but most of the time, that's what you're going to be seeing. Unfortunately, weather relies on, meteorology relies on many phrases of usually, most of the time, and generally. You will not get a forecast to say absolutely and every time, because it doesn't work like that. Got you, more flow than a pinpoint direction. Absolutely, Ian. That's exactly the point. And oh, we got a hello from Vegas. Yeah, greetings, Estefana from the UK, where it's glorious and sunny. I hope it's glorious with you as well. Okay. A CAA issued Captain 1925 today, getting ready to fly. Fantastic. Great news. Okay, hopefully that's been useful for you. I'm going to assume there are no more questions. If there are, get them in very, very quickly. As I say, I'm booking now Aviation Weather School online part 1. And please, if you can, do donate to, I'm just trying to get rid of that screen, the drawing I've put on there. There we go. Please do donate to the Big Issue Foundation. That would be absolutely super. If you would, and thank you everybody who's donated so far. It's been brilliant that we've raised sort of £1,600. Let's see if we can boost it nearer the £2,000. That'd be really good. Okay, listen everybody, thank you very much. Any questions at all, please do get in touch. You can use the contact us form here at the Weather School website. So just there, if you want to ask me any questions at all, Kate will make sure that they come directly through to me. It's been great to see you. Okay, I think I will leave you with that for now. Whatever you're doing. Thanks again for watching. Have a great Wednesday evening, won't you? We've got the flyer forecast being issued tomorrow as usual. Remember, it goes out on the Monday and the Thursday, so that will be online in the morning. And yeah, it's really good to see you. I hope to see you on an Aviation Weather School Part 1 course very soon. Or if not, I'll see you on A Pilot's Guide to SKEW-T'S. Those of you who have already been, and I recognise lots of the names that were there, great to see you. I hope that you are well, and it's brilliant to hear from my friends who've been to Weather School. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that for now. Whatever you're doing, have a great evening. Thanks again for watching. Keep the sun shining, and bye for now. See you.